Solo Leveling is a web novel about Sung Jin-Woo, who is a member of the weakest low-rank hunters group. The story revolves around a fictional setting where we have these portals that they call gates all around the world. But these are connected to a realm of monsters. The problem with these gates is that you never know when different ones can randomly appear in different parts of the world, because then it becomes a problem for mankind, since monsters can pretty much start devouring humans. And so multiple countries, including South Korea, Japan, America, and China, have individually formed a hunters association. And the members of each association are actually humans that have acquired certain superpowers or abilities. So these hunter groups basically accept jobs for protecting the world in exchange for either funds or recognition. But if you are at all familiar with this novel, the most exciting part about the series is the main character. Sung Jin-Woo is actually an E-rank hunter, which means there's pretty much nothing or no one that's weaker than you in the entire force. However, at some point in the story, Sung Jin-Woo gets roped into doing an E-rank job with his group that turns out to be extremely dangerous, and most of the hunters that he's with basically get wiped out. He's the only one in the group that manages to complete all the trials of the dungeon and still survive. But in reality, he basically dies, but is literally reawakened with powers where he can grow exponentially very fast. So the majority of the story is about how he gets stronger and stronger to the point where he's basically super OP. In fact, he becomes so powerful that he doesn't even need to be part of any hunters group, because he starts to raid dungeons all by himself. Hence the name of the series being Solo Leveling, or Only I Level Up. One of the most interesting parts about Sung Jin-Woo's powers is that he's the only one that can continue to grow, whereas most, if not all hunters, usually cannot grow to higher ranks. Solo Leveling, however, is not all about the main character fighting all by himself. He also acquires powers down the road where he can capture the souls of the enemies that he kills, and they become a part of his army. So one thing you may be wondering about is, why have I never heard of this series? Well, first of all, Solo Leveling is not a manga. It's a manhwa, which is what they call comics or web novels in South Korea. Secondly, you're probably used to Shonen Jump, which represents all of the weekly releases for manga published in Japan. Solo Leveling is obviously not included with Jump magazines, so it's not necessarily mainstream. But if you're a fan of Shonen manga, I would highly recommend giving it a shot, since it has the same qualities that you'd ordinarily find in that genre. Solo Leveling is a webtoon series that recently ended with 179 chapters. But just like how usually there's a gap between a manga and its corresponding anime, there are actually two adaptations that are available. There's a light novel where the story was already finished, but then there's a webtoon which is a bit behind. Both adaptations have quite a few notable differences in storytelling. Personally, I would recommend reading the webtoon series, especially if you need something easier to digest. I read through all of Solo Leveling's manhwa, and within just a few chapters, I was immediately addicted. Although there is no official announcement of a Solo Leveling anime being in production, there was a tweet by an anime and manga insider that recently got some attention in early 2022. Now, whether this is a rumor or an actual leak, I would leave that up to your imagination. The good news, if you're a fan of Solo Leveling, is that a game has recently been announced. The South Korean mobile game developer Netmarble seems to be taking up the project, and you can find the game's trailer in the video description below. So if you haven't yet read any of Solo Leveling and you are a huge fan of shonen manga, I do recommend giving it a shot. Thanks for watching. And for more on Solo Leveling, manhwa, webtoons, and manga in general, please consider subscribing to this channel.